I would like to introduce Kulish. He's a lawyer at Steinberg, Title Tov in Israel, and he will start with answering a basic question: what is a charity? Now, I do want to mention that Taras has over 25 years of experience servicing the needs of charities, and this past summer, Taras taught at Lviv in the Rule of Law Center on charity law. So I'm sure he will provide a good perspective on what charities are.
Thank you. So, when I was a boy, my father always used to tell me that the community was the most important thing. And that's why we're all here in such a big number today, because the community, our community, whatever community you represent is important to you. And we're trying to figure out how we can best serve our community and as well fall on the right side of the rules and regulations. So I'm going to talk to you about the difference between charities and not-for-profit organizations. Something to remember is that every charity starts out as a not-for-profit, but not every not-for-profit makes it or wants to even attain the status of a charity. And so we're going to go into a little bit about what makes a charity and what is a charity, so that you can understand that what is a not-for-profit if you're not in that charitable registration zone. So one thing to remember is that there are 4 heads of charity. There are 4 basic areas that you must fall into, that your purposes in your articles of incorporation or your letters patent, they must fall into one of these 4 areas. The first area is relief of poverty. Now, as a charity, you can have purposes which fall into multiple pillars, if you will, multiple heads. So relief of poverty means providing basic amenities such as food, shelter, clothing to the poor. So an example that we have is the Right to Play organization, which is an organization which enables poor children to participate in organized sports. Now, the concept of sports in charity law is something that's actually quite tricky, because sports, as we're going to learn a little bit later, is not considered charitable under the common law definition of charity. And that's what we're looking at right now, because in Canada, we run under the common law, and there's not actually a statutory definition of charity. And this is different than, let's say, in a country like Ukraine, where everything is statutorily guided and driven. So the second heading of charity is advancement of education. There are many who are involved in the advancement of education. What does that mean? It's educating others, training the mind, advancing knowledge or abilities of the recipient. So, for instance, we have this image of the Holodomor bus, which goes around Ontario and educates school children about the genocide, the famine that happened in Ukraine in the 30s. And so that is a valuable charitable purpose. Operating a school, providing scholarships. These are all advancement of education. It could be as simple as educating children about a chess program or about computers. So those are some of the things that can be considered charitable by the CRA. Advancement of religion is the third main heading, and of course that's a huge one for many of the people in this room. So religion is defined, and so you just can't create your own religion. It has to be a religious belief system that is recognized, and the activities that you carry out have to promote and advance that religious belief system. And so examples of promoting religion are going to be preaching or establishing and maintaining a house of worship. There are some charities that have actually only one object, which is to establish and maintain a house of worship. There are others which go on and have more goals, such as preaching the gospel or preaching or teaching about the tenets of a particular religion, so whether it be Christian, Jewish, or Muslim. Missionary work is also a very important component of advancement of religion. We've got the logo up there of the Salvation Army, which is actually a religious organization. One of their objects is providing chaplaincy services to hospitals, prisons, and universities. Other purposes that are beneficial to the community that the law has recognized as charitable. That's the fourth head of charity, and that's sort of the catch-all, if you will. But it's very important that you remember that the courts will examine certain purposes and they will determine whether they are of benefit to the community. So examples, promoting health, that's a huge one. Promoting the arts, another huge one. Providing facilities for the elderly, and we have charities in our community that do that. Protecting the environment. Now, the purposes of a charity. If you're going to have a charitable organization, all of your purposes must be charitable. You can't have 4 purposes that are charitable and then, for instance, one which is strictly dealing with sports or dealing with for-profit. If you do that, then the CRA will not grant you charitable registration status. So what you can do is you can separate out your business, so to speak, into different entities. You could have one entity that is strictly a not-for-profit that won't seek charitable registration. You could have another one, maybe which is a profitable entity, and another one which is a charitable entity. So those are some things to think about. So, the good things. What are the rights of a registered charity? What can a registered charity do? Well, the first one that most people, why they are going to go to the expense and the trouble of registering and then maintaining a charity is that they can issue official donation receipts. They are exempt from paying income tax. They can receive gifts from other registered charities. And we see that a lot. Let's say a church might give to another organization, for instance, like Suspilna Slujba. You are exempt from paying HST on goods and services that the charity provides. So if the charity has a little store, a coffee shop, let's say a hospital that has a coffee shop, that's allowable. Okay. A registered charity has to devote its resources, all of its funds, personnel, whether they be volunteers or paid, to the charitable purposes and activity. You've got to file an annual return. So there's these accountability things that have to be done. Keeping your books and records. You have to properly issue and maintain the donation receipts. And you have to control and direct the use of all the resources. So this is something that's incredibly important, is that your board is not just a board that is rubber stamping things, but that is asking questions, that is actively involved, and that maintains control over the work of the charity. And so you know what is going on at all times in your facilities. So that brings us to the end of this introductory part of what is a charity, what is a not-for-profit. We have an incredible lineup of speakers that is going to follow that will educate you on different aspects. So I'm grateful that everyone has come here, and I do acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of patience, but we're going to be having a lot to learn tonight. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, we have a couple of minutes, so by all means.
Will you make your materials available to us by email?
Yes, all of the PowerPoint presentations that we are going to be showing tonight will be posted on the various websites of the partner organizations. So that will be available.